Alright, what is up, everyone? I think we're live. Let me double check that. Okay, we are... Yeah, we should be live. How's it going, everyone? So, it's me, Andres Restart, and I'm joined by Brandon from What About Nintendo. We have a lot to talk about today. A lot to talk about. Actually, I was lagging a little behind because there's so much news to cover. But I've also been busy playing Mario Odyssey and Call of Duty all week. Mostly Mario Odyssey. So, yeah, I had a lot to catch up on. But now I think we can actually talk about it. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing good. I've been playing a lot of Mario Odyssey too. I actually was playing it in my free time, and then people voted for me to stream it, so I played it then too. And I just got to play a lot of Mario Odyssey today, so it was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been having a good time.
Yeah.
Exploring New Donk City.
Yeah, I've been exploring New Donk City a lot as well. Now, for me, actually, what I've been doing, I've been actually experimenting a lot with the movement and jumping and such. And here's the thing, like, I actually accomplished the impossible jump. I actually did it. I don't know if you saw it in the video I posted last night.
I saw it.
But
I didn't know if it was you doing it or recording of somebody else.
That was me.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try and do a breakdown video of it by tomorrow. I'm gonna try to bring it out tomorrow and break it down, like how you do it exactly, because there actually are some misconceptions about how you do the long jump. Like, everyone's kind of talking about, oh, you have to build momentum. I'm pretty confident that that's all a whole bunch of malarkey. Like, there's...
Yeah, I saw you do it. You didn't, like, build any momentum.
No. I went and tested, like, the ground pound spin dash, right, as opposed to just a running long jump, and they literally cover the same distance. But hopefully I can get that video out by tomorrow so people can see exactly what I mean about how the momentum, this whole momentum build-up thing is a complete sham. You just do a long jump, and it's the same distance at the same speed you're going to cover. Yeah. At least in terms of getting that jump. Maybe there is a momentum thing, but for whatever reason, I didn't need to do it. I tested it, and it was the same no matter what. So, anyways, it's just kind of really cool that you can... There's all these different kinds of crazy jumps you can do in Mario Odyssey. But I guess that's one of the reasons why it's so great, and maybe it's also one of the reasons why it's selling so well, which is, I guess, this segue into the news rundown, because we have a lot to talk about. So, you know a little bit more about this. I know Mario Odyssey sold over 2 million over the weekend worldwide, which is supposedly, I guess, like, incredible. I guess it's on pace to be the best-selling Mario ever, at least in terms of 3D Mario games. What do you know, Brian?
Yeah, it did. It sold worldwide. It sold incredibly well. In just 3 days, 2 million copies, which is the fastest-selling Super Mario game ever. Like, which is insane to think about when you put it up against, like, when Mario Galaxy 2 come out and Mario Galaxy 1. How many units did the Wii have? 30 million, 60 million, and the Switch, it's over here with about 8 million, and yet it sells faster than those, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah,
so it's been selling really, really well.
It's been selling very, very well. It's Nintendo is just doing something really good here. Like, it's not just that the games are really good, because they are, but it's just, I guess, the momentum they have with the Switch, the public perception they have of the Switch, I guess part of it is that when you get a game for Switch, it's kind of like a combo deal, because when you get it, yeah, you can play it at home, but you could also play it on the go. And that may be such a simple thing that we may have said repeatedly, right? But it really, rings true. Like, now, actually, yeah, I have a PS4 now, and there's a few games I've been wanting to get, but I'm now, like, holding back a second, thinking, wait a second, do I want to get it on PS4, or do I want to wait and get it on Switch? Because on Switch, I can play it on the go as well, right? Like, for example, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Fighters, or, I'm thinking about getting that on PlayStation because I really want the game, but I might wait because that's a really good, like, arcadey fight game that'd be great to just have on the go with me with the Switch. So, I guess that's part of the reason why Switch games are selling so well, because everyone just kind of sees this extra value with it for every single game. So, yeah, Mario Odyssey is just kind of just another one of those games that's just doing incredibly well, like Zelda, like Splatoon. So, obviously, Mario Odyssey in and of itself is its own, like, huge thing. I expect to see more games like this in the future.
Yeah, I agree. Just being able to, it's almost like 2 games in one, because used to, a lot of games have, like, some games have handheld versions and console versions, and some people will buy both. You only have to buy one version now, so It's a lot streamlined, and plus, just to be honest, it's cheaper. It fits my wallet a lot better.
It does. I hope Nintendo doesn't actually come out with another handheld. They might, knowing Nintendo.
Please don't.
You know, they might, if they think they can get away with it, they might, right? But I mean, if they do, if it's like a Switch Mini, I don't mind, because that means it plays the same game, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I would like a Switch
Mini.
Mini.
Like, as long as they don't come out with another platform that has different software, right? Yeah, where we're forced to get 2 platforms and the games are kind of divvied up between the 2. No. As long if both handheld home console games are all coming out on Switch, it'll save us money in a way, because we'll only buy the game once. Like, there are people who bought Smash twice, or they'll have to decide between, or there'll be 2 Mario Karts, there'll be 2 Mario Parties, you know, things like that. So I hope that doesn't happen. Of course, Nintendo may see that as a lost opportunity in terms of sales, but then maybe they'll make up for it by people buying more games and different kinds of games. So we'll see. I hope not. I legitimately hope they don't, but you never know with Nintendo. They're hard to predict.
Yeah, I don't see why they would come out with another one. Just, I guess for different types of experiences, but I don't know. It just I don't think they should at this point. They should put all their focus on the Switch, just how well it's doing. Just keep the string of games going and going and going.
Yeah, exactly. Just quick shout outs to Tatsumi Kimishima, Historic Duel, and Koloko. What's up, guys? You know, we got a lot to talk about today. So yeah, I mean, Mario Odyssey has been really good. Obviously, the sales have been great. If you guys have seen my review, I'm pretty positive about the game. So yeah, I'm not surprised it's selling well. But when we go back to like this idea that every game has that extra value because of the portability, I hope Nintendo doesn't bastardize that concept by bringing out another handheld. I hope they don't, but you never really know with Nintendo. You never do.
Yeah, you do.
I don't think they will, but yeah, like I said, you never really know. So yeah, let's move on to another game that we think might be pretty special then. Unless you want to say anything else about Mario Odyssey, which we'll probably talk about, like, continue to talk about no matter what, because the game's just great. But
right, dude, so many. I've just like constant news videos about that game. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm ready to move on to the next topic.
Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about the Xenoblade Direct. It's coming tomorrow morning, actually, right?
Yeah.
I don't really know what to expect. I guess they're gonna kind of tell us what they have already. Maybe we'll learn. Honestly, I don't even know what to expect, because they've told us how the game plays. They give us a kind of decent rundown of the premise of the story, I guess. Maybe it'll just kind of be like they'll just retell us everything just to keep the game fresh. I honestly don't know what else they should show, because I think they've shown enough. It's just the timing of when they show it that makes it kind of weird, because I think they should have a direct for it to keep it fresh in people's minds. But I don't know if I want to know any more about it. Maybe they could present it in a more exciting kind of way, because when it was shown off during the last Direct, I thought it was very drawn out and drab. So hopefully this time, the way they present it, it just like really excites us for the game. What do you think, Brandon? You're the I mean, I'm a big Xenoblade fan, don't get me wrong, but you've been really raving about this game for a while already, so what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know exactly what they'll show, because when I first heard about this, I was super excited. I was like, oh, great, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Direct, exactly what I wanted. And I was like, wait, what do I even want them to show in this? I don't know. So what I think probably, they didn't even give us like how long it was going to be, which I just thought was weird. Because lately they have been telling us approximately how long it's going to be. This one they didn't.
I get the sense it's going to be short, because it's really early in the morning for us Westerners.
Minutes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Minutes. But pretty much what I think it's going to be is, lately with everything they've been showing, I feel like it's been more towards people who already know about the series. People are already excited just because it's another Xenoblade game. And they haven't really shown anything that might excite like a new person. So I think this might be the time where they just go all out and try to grab just a wider audience and stop and just like try to make it look good for a wider amount of people. Because lately they've been just showing, you know, like what did they show in the last Direct? Like a couple world names and like a cool Titan, or yeah, they're called Titans, right? For sure. That's pretty much all they showed.
The giant animals they travel on, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so they didn't really show anything that would excite somebody who's new to the series. So I think that's what they're going to do in this Direct. I think they're going to show a bunch of stuff that excites people who are new to the series.
For sure. Let me refer to some of the comments before we continue. To Historic Duel's point, because he was actually talking about something we were talking about previously. Yeah, we've covered this many times, but like the idea of Nintendo focusing on one system is great because they have all these IPs and they could actually create concerted quality efforts on almost every single IP instead of focusing on creating 2 of every single game already, like 2 Mario Karts. No, how about we get ARMS and Mario Kart, which we did. So things like that actually, that could be really promising if Nintendo sticks to the one platform, which we hope they do, we think they do, but you never really know. Hopefully, fingers crossed. And yeah, Coloco's talking about how you would like to see Xenoblade X have like, you know, well, Xenoblade 2 have better ways of traveling. I think, you know, you could fast travel. There were like fast travel points in Xenoblade X, right? But from what I remember, I guess it was just annoying because I didn't like using my gamepad. I like just I kind of left it there on my lap to look at and press at certain times, and I play with a Pro Controller. And it was annoying just to go into the menu of just to look down away from my Pro Controller and you pick up one controller versus another and mess with the map menu to sort of navigate where I would need to go. And it wasn't very clearly like said how we could always teleport. So I guess I at least agree that like they need to make it easier to fast travel. Like really simple, like press minus, scroll around, ba ba ba, you know, to have many different points.
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll load a lot faster too
original
because it's on
Xenoblade.
cartridges. What?
Yeah, I feel like it was easier in the original Xenoblade. They just had the locations, and then under that they had the different places. Like they had the main giant locations, and under that they had the smaller regions where you could fast travel. It's much easier. It was just kind of like a menu, and then you just went through. You went, okay, I want to go to this region. Okay, I want to go to this part of the region. Then you just clicked on it, and you were good. So I hope they don't do the stupid time thing where you have to go to certain places to change the time. That sucked. Gosh, that sucks so much. I could never find those dang things. Gosh, they're so bad.
Yeah. What's up, Red Ninja? How you doing? Shout out to you. Yeah, I don't know what... it would be interesting to see if Coloco was talking about different abilities that we may have that could be for transportation. I know there's someone who rides like a lynx or something, like some sort of
That's what I was about to
tiger, liger animal.
Yeah.
I would like to see a lot more of that for sure. I don't know. I haven't paid enough. I've kind of like stayed back a little bit because I don't want to watch too much gameplay. But I hopefully there is actually like a lot of different animals you can ride out there for sure. Yeah. Like, what else could there be? Do you think they would have flying? I mean, the thing is, here's the thing about the flying, having to fly, because the thing is, you're literally everything's in the sky, so you have like a whole bunch of sky creatures, right, that basically fly in the sky. You know, the giant titans. So that's literally the landmass. It's everything is in the sky. So if you have a flying creature, then all of a sudden you can go from one world to the next by flying.
Yeah.
Maybe they would allow that. Maybe
I don't. Maybe late game. If it's like one of the last blades you can unlock and then you can fly, that'd be really cool. But I don't want it anywhere near like anything but the late game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Especially because the mechs, I felt in Xenoblade Chronicles X, where they added a little bit more exploration, they also took away a lot of it because you could just fly wherever you wanted to go. And there was that sense that you had to actually figure out how to get to some place. You just could fly there. It was like kind of lame. So, a stupid flying creature, you can just break everything. Just break the entire game. Just fly wherever you want.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one possibility is that what they could do is that for whatever blades, if some of the blades can fly or move around, right, on their specific creatures. What if there's just like a certain amount of time you can fly? So maybe they decide, okay, after a certain point, you're just gonna die if you fly too far. So, you know, maybe they'll just have a stamina meter if there are some blades that can fly. But I have no idea. So you know, there's only so much we could talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a random point. If anyone's wondering why the chat box on the screen does not have any chat, it's because it doesn't. I'm fixing it now. But yeah, so whatever, I don't really know what to say about that. I just hope that the game, well, I mean, what else is there to say about Xenoblade? I think there is a lot of things they can fix in Xenoblade X, like not have really tiny text. That is something that was really weird with Xenoblade X. Like, there was so much text to read, but it was all really tiny. There were literally times, and I have 20/20 vision or better, like, it's hard to see the text sometimes, so hopefully that's not an issue. From what I've seen, it isn't, but I haven't really paid too much attention to it. Have you noticed anything about that, Brandon?
Oh yeah, I noticed that all the time because I would play in off TV mode, and you cannot read anything in that game. You can't read a gosh darn thing. You have to already know where everything is, because otherwise you cannot read anything. It's so
Yeah.
tiny. You're just like holding the gamepad this close to your face trying to read things. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, so
It's just
maybe
so
making
tiny.
it easier to fast travel, bigger text. Those are two things that would have made Xenoblade X a much better game. It's a great game, but those are two things that really made it a lot harder. Also, like, they didn't describe a lot of, it wasn't like pick up and play. You have to really kind of figure out how to do
You had to
things.
figure out, yeah.
And that's a lot of the
kinda
problems I'm actually
convoluted.
having with Call of Duty right now. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. So hopefully they make it easier to understand. I saw a game explain discussion, and they were kind of talking about how they got some time with Xenoblade 2, and they said that maybe it's because they were kind of already in some random area, like at least a few hours into the game, that they felt like there was too much to figure out all at once. But I hope that that in Xenoblade it is easy to actually figure things out, because they were saying that it was not easy to figure things out. It kind of took them to some experimenting, and they had to experiment, try to figure it out on their own. But of course, that was a preview, and that was already well into the game already. They were sort of just thrown in there. So I hope that this game has, at least it's easier to figure things out. I'm not asking for them to hold my hand, right? But at least have the resources there for me to figure it out.
How things work.
Like in Mario Odyssey, you don't have to figure anything out. Yeah, you figure stuff out, obviously, with how the game functions, but in terms of knowing how to play and stuff, all the information is there immediately. You press start, it's all right there. And then, of course, the first few levels literally have, tutorial signs as well. So, hopefully the development team with Monolith Soft takes some cues from the Mario Odyssey team and actually makes it easier to just kind of jump right in. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't like hand-holding, but at the same time, I think you should make it clear how to play the game. Even with the original Xenoblade, actually, it took me time, and there should be a learning curve. I'm not saying there shouldn't, because this game is deep. It's a deep game. You can't be expected. We should not expect to be able to know everything from the get-go. So, with both games, Xenoblade and Xenoblade X, I had to learn how to take advantage of the system as time went on. It would usually take me over 20 hours before I really started to get a good grasp of some of the core mechanics and how I could really take advantage of it, with a tag team system, and when you actually can kind of go into overdrive in Xenoblade X. So,
Dude,
the combos in Xenoblade X are crazy when you go into overdrive. You can
I
lick
do
it
not
onto forever.
understand overdrive at all. I hit that at the most random of times. I still, to this day, I do not understand how overdrive works, and I have put over 120 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles X. I still have no idea how that system works. Yeah. I just kind of pressed it and it's hopefully this helps something.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, Red Ninja, I see you on Twitter, by the way. Thanks for checking me out on Twitter. So, not Twitter, Twitch. I always confuse Twitch and Twitter. I'm such an old man. I use both, but I'm an old man, whatever. Even though I'm not old. I'm still in my 20s.
At all.
Yeah. So, but actually, I guess we can go back to Xenoblade if you guys want, but I want to start talking about some other things that have happened. Like, for example, AMD and Intel are now working together. Now, I'm not super tech savvy, but in kind of layman's terms, from how I understand it, basically this means is that AMD has actually been sucking compared to NVIDIA, and now that Intel and NVIDIA are going to be working together, they're going to be able to come up with some pretty sick cards and processors. So this is going to it's going to compel NVIDIA to try harder and make something even better, which does have implications for Nintendo's future system, perhaps a Switch update, because the next NVIDIA chip that runs on the next Switch, the Switch 2.0 or whatever, 4 or 5 years from now, could be a lot more powerful because NVIDIA feels the competition between this relationship between AMD and Intel. Because lately, NVIDIA's kind of just been blowing AMD out of the water. So when you have kind of a monopoly on the market and you're doing so much better than other companies, you're not pushed as hard, right? But if you go back to when Nintendo was going hard against Sega, we saw some of the best games ever on the Super Nintendo because of that rivalry between Sega. So if AMD can start to rival NVIDIA now with this new Intel partnership, we may see some really sick processors come out from NVIDIA in the future, as well as with whatever AMD is working on, because by working with Intel, they have a lot more resources too. So I know, Brandon, you have a little bit of a better idea of the tech here. What do you think's going on with this?
Yeah, I find it very interesting that Intel and AMD would work together, considering they were just rivaling to see who could make the fastest processor. But
Yeah.
whatever. Apparently, the enemy of your enemy is your friend.
I heard. Yeah.
NVIDIA has been kind of destroying AMD and Intel on the graphics side of things for a while. So it has interesting applications, or for what may influence NVIDIA on their mobile processors, because what they're making is a super powerful mobile processor. So it's interesting to see how that technology advances, because the more that advances, the more we can look forward to for like the Switch 2, where the next Nintendo console. So if this pushes NVIDIA more and more, that'd be a good thing, because they've kind of been slowing down on the mobile side a little bit. So hopefully they ramp that back up, because after the X1 they came out with the X2, which was not really gaming focused, and now they're coming out with a new one, but they're kind of making slower steps than they were before. So hopefully this pushes them faster.
I mean, I kind of feel like technology in general just isn't really making that big of a jump personally. I mean, maybe I'm not. I should be playing on like an Xbox One X or Pro on a 4K television to really get a good understanding of where technology is going. But like, I don't know. Like, I've been playing Call of Duty and it kind of looks the same to me. Like, it looks good. It looks solid, but it looks. I mean, it looked good 3 years ago. So it looked good 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I kind of looked good 7 years ago. Like, I just kind of, it just feels the same. I feel like a lot of the industry in general has been, I don't want to say entirely stagnant, but in some areas hasn't really changed that much. So, that's why I like this idea of there being competition. So when, NVIDIA seeing this AMD Intel partnership, they may start pushing each other, and we could see bigger advances in technology. Hopefully it doesn't mean more expensive technology, but we'll see what happens with that. Or at least we have our Switches and stuff for at least the next few good years, so we shouldn't worry too much about it for now. But I guess let's talk about Resident Evil. They got some more news about Resident Evil. Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 are coming out for the Switch November 28th, I think. And basically, from what we've heard, Resident Evil Revelations 1 is going to be at 1080p, 60 frames per second. Revelations 2 is going to be at 1080p. We have no idea what the frame rate. They said slightly less, which most of the time that just means down to 30 frames per second, but it's possible that maybe they want to run it at 50 or 40. I've seen stuff like that for movies, but I don't know if they would do that in a video game, so it's probably just going to be at 30 frames per second.
From what I've heard, if you don't have it at 30 or 60, it can cause screen tearing, because it's not a specific amount of hertz compatible. So I mean, technically there is technology that can battle that, but why even bother here? I don't understand. I feel like it would be much easier just to put it in 30 frames.
Yeah,
instead.
It probably is going to be 30 frames per second. They just haven't told us exactly what that will be, but it's probably 30. So, I mean, I've seen it in movies, like with, for example, The Hobbit. It ran at 24 frames per second and 48 frames per second, which I think which one? I think it was the 48 frames per second that was weird. That's weird for a movie. Usually movies run at slower frame rates.
Yeah, usually about 24 to 30 frames.
Yeah, but for The Hobbit, they thought 48 would be interesting. I didn't mind it, but I do remember it feeling a little different. And that's kind of the thing with a lot of movies. It's just whenever you kind of feel like it seems different, like sometimes you might watch a movie on a television, or like you can kind of tell like where it's coming from. A lot of it has to do with the frame rate. Like, a lot of people can't like easily like read what a frame rate is, but if you have like that feels like, oh, this seems different, I can't tell why, it's probably because of the frame rate. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it's gonna be kind of weird to play 1 at 60 and then play 2 at 30, but whatever. Apparently, you can get all. It's gonna come with all of the DLC, and you can get both games together for $40. All the DLC, 1080p. It's gonna be based off the PS4 and Xbox One versions. It seems like a pretty good deal. It's gonna have all the Joy-Con stuff. Apparently, there's some mini games involved as well. So it's gonna have HD Rumble. So I'm going to wait on reviews for it, but if the reviews are really good, I might get it, because I didn't get to finish Revelations on the 3DS, and I never played Revelations 2, so it might be worth it. We'll see. It'd be great. It would have been great if we were able to get it out by October 31st. I mean, but they didn't, so whatever. Yeah, I don't know. You don't even like Resident Evil, do you?
I'm playing through Resident Evil 4 right now, and I actually really enjoy it.
Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games ever. It's literally one of the best games ever.
This is the first time I've ever played Resident Evil. I did watch, I think Markiplier play through Resident Evil. No, I don't remember. Somebody played through Resident Evil 7, and I liked that a lot. I thought that was really cool. So, personally, I don't know. It's some horror games I don't like playing. Some I do. A lot of them I like to watch more than play. So it's interesting. It's a case by case basis.
Yeah.
But from what if it's anything like Resident Evil 4, I'll like it.
Yeah. Well, actually, it is kind of like it. In fact, a lot of people prefer Revelations over the recent 5 and 6 because it just kind of goes back more to the horror roots for the game, but it still has that over-the-shoulder style from Re 4. I don't think, from what I've seen and heard, it's not as good as Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is arguably the best game in the series. Of course, there are some that prefer the older style, but like, so it's kind of hard to measure up to that. You know, this is a Mario 64, the Ocarina of Time. You know, it's just kind of, I don't know. You can't expect it to be that good, but I mean the game's already come out. We would have been, we already know. You can check reviews to get an idea of how good the games are. They're solid games, but they're not, you know, mind-blowingly good. So
yeah,
we'll see. I want to see how well those versions are running. I might get it. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, it's I hope it's good. So here's what's interesting though, since we're talking about horror games. Eternal Darkness. There has been another trademark update for Eternal Darkness. So does that mean we are going to be getting an Eternal Darkness for the Nintendo Switch? I would like to see that because Eternal Darkness was really unique. I didn't really play it that much as a kid, but I know how special of a game it is. I know I've heard some people talk about the game. It seems so unique. I would love to see a new version of that game on the Nintendo Switch. And I feel like the Nintendo Switch needs like a premier horror game, you know? So that if we get an Eternal Darkness next year, bro, that would be a great way to kind of help the 2018 lineup. I would love to see it. You know, and it's not like it's not like just straight up like gore and just carnage everywhere. It's like actually like kind of like an intelligent sort of horror game. It really messes with your mind and your perception. And it challenges like the fourth wall of video games as well. So this is all from what I've heard. It just seems like a really good game. I hope it's coming. What do you think? Do you think this is worth anything? Because this is not the first trademark update. They've been continually updating it for a while now.
Yeah, I don't see why they would. I mean, trademarks do cost you money. If you're not going to actually make a new game, why even have the trademark? You're not selling any of the older products anymore. So you're not making money off of the older games anymore. So why would you not just make a new game if you're going to keep the trademark? Personally, I've never played Eternal Darkness, but from what I've heard, it does a lot of really interesting, as you were saying, kind of fourth wall breaking horror, which I think is really cool. And actually planning to play it and stream it pretty soon, so that's going to be fun. But if they make a new Eternal Darkness, I know it's pretty popular. I don't know if it's popular, but it's kind of at least a cult classic. So I think that'll get people excited if they announce that. Definitely. I don't know if it'll come out next year or not, but
yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So before we move on to the next final topic for the news rundown, then we'll talk about Call of Duty and then, you know, the big topic for the discussion. But shout out to Son Gohan and Koloko. I'm glad you kind of. Well, I was okay with the Hobbit 548 frames per second, but you know, there's a lot of things that I see that have like a frame rate difference, and it's pretty jarring to me. So that just kind of goes back to my point about Resident Evil Revelations 1 being at 60 and then 2, I guess, probably being at 30. I hope it's not a weird transition, but since it's two different games technically, I guess it's okay. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm gonna wait on reviews to really decide if I want to get the game or not. So I guess let's kind of move on to the final topic for the news rundown. Sonic Forces. We got one review for it from Polygon, and it was a 5 out of 10. Now, I do believe numbers are a bit arbitrary. I still pay attention to them. You know, a 10 for someone might be an 8 for another, a 9 for someone else. You know, but it's kind of like, you know, it depends on the person. But 5 out of 10 is one of those situations where it's obvious that it's not good. You know, maybe Polygon really hates it. Maybe they're biased. Maybe their version was gimped. But a lot of signs are there. You know, this Sonic Forces is weird. They have like customizable avatars. They're trying to be really like hard and not focus on the gameplay and the style of it. It's just, I see a lot of red flags with this Sonic game. I was hoping it was gonna be good when I first heard about it, but now the more we've learned about it, it just kind of It's the same stuff over and over again. They come out with a new Sonic game every year, and it just doesn't. It seems like this sort of cop-out kind of game that's trying to appeal to the mainstream and not really sticking true to what makes Sonic good, which is what Sonic Mania did. So I don't know. I am not excited from what I'm hearing. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of bad things. Polygon wasn't even the first one that I heard. I heard of a lot of different people who just have gotten Sonic and they're just like, it's not good at all. From what I've heard, it's like, it's very weird. It's mostly just run in a straight line a lot of the time, and there's not much variance. Apparently, the controls are very stiff and they don't allow for much movement, which I've actually experienced playing the 60-second demo. So as much as I could experience, I noticed that. Apparently, it's weird because there's also this issue where there's exploration levels, but you're also graded on how fast you do them. So it's like explore, but don't explore because you have to go fast and beat the level, but you have to explore.
I've heard that.
So
yeah, I've heard that there's like these two styles that it wants you to get everything, but also speed through the game. I don't know. I'm not necessarily against that on paper, because I play Sonic games, and sometimes, you know, I might try to speed through a level, but then I'll go back and try to find stuff. It kind of forces you to replay the game and see different secrets that there could be there. But, you know, I don't normally hear about people complain about this, so either A, people are looking for reasons to complain about this, or the way they're doing it in this game is just slightly off, so it's not as comfortable as, say, for example, in Sonic Mania, where, yeah, there's like multiple different paths, there's 5 different things you can discover and explore, but, like, you know, it's kind of, there's a flow to it. There's a flow to it, and you can beat each level relatively quick, and you're kind of, you know, personally, I want to find all the secret rings so I can get the 7 Chaos Gems and such, so I don't know how this is turning out, but everyone's talking bad about it, and it's kind of one of those things where, like, Sonic already has a reputation for being mostly bad most of the time, which is unfortunate, because Sonic used to be considered to be really good, you know, like, not as good as Mario, but, like, it was a rival, you know, it was, like, the second best platformer out there. So now that Mario Odyssey has one of the, obviously, according to the reviews, it's, like, one of the best platformers ever, Sonic is terrible. It's unfortunate, really.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different complaints as well about the story being just absolute trash. Also, the fact that there are, apparently, from what I've heard, there are a lot of really, really unfair obstacles that will just randomly jump out and like insta-kill you, and you have absolutely no time to react. So it appears that the levels almost like you have to die over and over again until you memorize, which is okay for some games, but I don't really feel like that's what Sonic is supposed to be. So there's like no room to react to anything, but that's how the game is supposed to be played, which makes no sense. So it's just interesting.
Based off what I've played of Sonic, right, what I remember of Sonic, and I've read a few books about Sonic, so what I understand is that the roots of Sonic were about feeling cool and kind of like feeling that sense of speed, right? Like it was both of those, because like compared to other platformers out there, Sonic was blazing fast when it was first introduced. Super fast, super cool, you know, and that was important back then. So it'd be really cool to kind of see them go back to those roots and just focus on the speed of the game, you know, and like having all these different obstacles and forcing you to like run around and collect things, that slows down the game, and that kind of goes against it, you know, what made Sonic so interesting in the past. So I'm not saying it should be like a racer per se, but maybe it should be, actually, you know, like maybe there should be kind of like a hybrid platformer racer. And I mean, Sonic already kind of is like that, but maybe really go home with that idea. Just, you know, it's just a possibility. One direction they could go with Sonic. Like, I don't know. I kind of like what they did with Sonic Colors, and that was one of the better Sonic games we've gotten in a long time. Maybe we should go back to that style. I don't play every Sonic game now because a lot of them suck. So it's hard to say, really. I think they need to give Sonic a break. I think they need to give a lot of games a break. But the problem is that in this era, it's so expensive to make games now that you can't just experiment too much and create new stuff, because if you do, it costs you a lot of money, and a lot of times it doesn't sell. So you have to stick with the names that people already know about most of the time. So it's hard to branch out and create new games. That's why we see Call of Duties every year, NBA 2Ks every year. You know, all these different games are coming. Assassin's Creed every year. Like, companies do this because that's the safe way to do it. It's a safe way to make money. So like I guess that kind of brings me into Call of Duty, right? We're done with the news rundown for now. If anyone has any questions, we'll try to get back to it throughout the discussion. But I've been playing Call of Duty World War II, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I really have. But it's the same kind of fun I usually have with Call of Duty. It's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing new. It's just Call of Duty. And actually, I have a few problems with it. I don't know if I don't know if I'm gonna do a review for it. Like it feels like the same kind of game. I enjoy playing online. I enjoy the zombies. I actually like the direction they're taking with the zombies. I like the feel of the game. It's just kind of like hard to navigate the menus, figure out what you have to do. The campaign is, I guess I appreciate the story, but it's something that's been done so many times. And there's nothing novel or new about the multiplayer either. It's just kind of more of what we've got in the past. And the same thing with the zombies. It's just like a different map with a different story. There's nothing groundbreaking about it either. And they have a Call of Duty every single year. So I enjoy playing it. I'm just saying there's nothing groundbreaking or fresh about it. Not really. So, but this is the kind of thing that's happening with a lot of games. Everything feels kind of stale now. I don't want the industry to be like this. I feel like that's one of the reasons why Nintendo is doing a good job, because their games aren't stale. They sort of like reinvent their franchises multiple times. What do you think, Brandon? How do you feel about the industry so far, and how there are just games that just kind of feel stale now because we're seeing an iteration every single year?
Yeah, I just don't understand why you would buy like the same type of game every single year. I especially don't understand the people who buy like FIFA and Madden and NBA
because you can literally update the rosters, so you have the most current roster even on the older games. So why would you get the new one? Oh, because you can see an extra drop of sweat. I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They're not really adding much new. In fact, a lot of times they make the new game, it's not even as good as the one that came out the other year. So it's just weird. I don't understand why they would do that. They just need to like sit back, make a game, make these games like, every 2-3 years and just update them. Just update them. Maybe add some DLC if you want to get some recurring revenue.
Yeah.
Add some worthwhile DLC. Because that's pretty much all these games are. They're just DLC for the last one that came out last year. They're just $60 DLC.
They're literally running on the same game engine. Maybe they update it a little bit. They might try to add a new mode. And, I mean, that's it. I agree with you. I don't think it's going to happen because they make more money otherwise. Like, it makes more sense to reuse the same assets, upgrade things a little bit, try to mix it up a little. Maybe. In fact, most of the time, they don't really mix much up. And they just kind of repackage it, and make money from it. Like, that's smarter. You make more money. But the thing is, they still do DLC. Most of these games still have DLC throughout the year. And they have loot boxes. And, a whole bunch of different forms of microtransactions. Like, this is kind of like the common thing now. And it's something I'm realizing more because, as you guys know, I'm mostly a Nintendo gamer, right? But I got a PS4 recently, and I'm playing more stuff and seeing more stuff. And there's a lot of pros with it, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I'm also seeing a lot of games that just straight up, they have tons of DLC, tons of microtransactions, that loot boxes are a huge thing, and it's just kind of like, and they come out with the same game every year, just slightly changed. It's all about, like, maximizing the game they already have and just trying to make as much money from that one product that they made a long time ago. And that's just, unfortunately, the state of the industry right now. The big AAA publishers don't want to take any big risks, because if they do, they won't be a big AAA publisher anymore. So it's weird. It's unfortunate. I don't know. What do you think, Brandon? Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel here, or is there gonna have to be a huge, like, big event that's gonna force people to change?
Yeah, there have been some companies that have done, like, they've taken a year off. Like Assassin's Creed, last year they took a year off, and this year they came out with Origins. And Origins supposedly is actually really good. From what I've seen, they added a lot of new stuff, and they tightened up some mechanics that were badly in need of fixing. And it's actually an Assassin's Creed game that doesn't look like the same thing over and over again with the reskin. So there are some companies out there that are willing to take breaks. And, I mean, I don't know, some companies, they just rely on one IP way too much. It's just like, you have other things you could make, and if not, just think of something. Use your mind, use your imagination, come up with something that's not the same thing over and over again. Then, if you have a couple of different really good series, you don't have to do the same series over and over again every single year. If you have a couple of them, then you can do one every 2 or 3 years and just have the other ones in between.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the same one.
What I'm a fan of is the whole, you come out with a big game, right? But then the following year, throughout the year that the game has been out, that first year, you release DLC throughout the year. In fact, in some cases, I wouldn't mind if they were to do it throughout the next 2 years. So in that way, you kind of help to bridge the gap between the next game and help to make more sales. Like, there are some games that I think would have benefited from having a 2-year DLC cycle, like Mario Kart. I would love there to be more DLC for Mario Kart 8. I would love for that. I want there to be more tracks. I really do. I want a mission mode. I want a story mode in Mario Kart 8. I would really like that. I would buy it, and I know I'm not the only one, you know? And let's say, for example, Splatoon 2. Okay, Splatoon is a little weirder because you have free DLC that comes out with that for, like, a long time. But maybe if they want to add an additional campaign, you sell it for $10, people will buy that. Or maybe add a split-screen multiplayer mode, people will buy that. Maybe they'll have like a GoldenEye, like Splatoon style, like DLC pack come out like year 2, maybe later 2018. That'd be interesting. Just an idea. I don't know what you guys think, but I would buy it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would love Mario Kart DLC. Get some new tracks in there, and maybe some new stages for battle mode, because I've played that game for I think like 80 hours, and I'm still playing it, but I'm just like, I don't really want to go back and play it that much anymore. So, but I still play it like a couple times a month, but I'm not going back to it constantly. And mostly I just play it because online multiplayer is fun with like subs and stuff. So otherwise, I just wouldn't play it.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
I think they need some more DLC for that. And why would you not? That people are like begging you to make this DLC. Like, people will just straight up buy it.
I want to get into that in a minute, but I just want to clear up a question from Kimishima. So he's saying, would we consider Mario Kart? Would we consider it the same as COD then? There isn't really, like you said, there isn't really a new one every year. I don't consider it the same because, in a way, I understand what you're saying. They come out with a Mario Kart for every single platform, but it's one Mario Kart for every system. Nintendo's had 2 systems, one handheld, one home console for a long time already. But every system usually comes out on an average about every 5 years. So we're seeing a Mario Kart on average. I'm not looking at the dates here, but let's just say we see a Mario Kart every 2.5 years. That's not as bad as every year, it's not as bad. So I don't mind it as much. But now that it's just a Switch, I don't even know if we're going to see a Mario Kart 9. We might. I really don't know. Like I said, I don't consider it this exact same thing, because at least with Mario Kart, it's 2.5 years. Like, it's 2.5 years. It's not 1 year. So it's a bit of a difference, and there are time, it's enough time for people to kind of forget about Mario Kart for a little bit, learn to miss it, and then come back to it. But here's the difference, right? We're talking a lot about Nintendo, and Nintendo's not like most people. Like, as you were kind of alluded to earlier, Brandon, they don't do, people are begging for them to make all this DLC, but they don't do that. They okay, we'll make some DLC, but we're not going to do it forever and have loot boxes and all this other stuff like most companies. We're going to work on our next project, which is something I think a lot of us respect about Nintendo, but at the same time, people want more, So it's interesting. What I would like to see with the Switch is that if there is just one platform from now on moving forward, that what they do is that they do have maybe 2 years of DLC, right? And then have a year where there's nothing, and that's when the next Mario Kart comes. You know what I mean? There doesn't have to be a lot of DLC like every month. Just maybe DLC 1 pack, 2, 3, and 4 every 6 months for 2 years. I would be down with that personally. Yeah. And that would help kind of bridge the gap for a lot of people who are waiting for the next Mario Kart that may take 5 years. That may be 5 years from now. You know what I mean? So I'll be okay with that, and that would really kind of, because like I said, we get 2 new Mario Karts in the past. We would get one for DS, one for Wii, and then Wii U, and then 3DS. We won't be getting that with Switch if there's not anything else. So they may just give us more DLC, or there might be a Mario Kart 9, because technically Mario Kart 8 was for the Wii U. So I don't know. It's a weird situation right now. We're in that transitional period where Nintendo is moving on to one platform. Maybe. It's weird.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll see. I would really like that. I love the idea of only needing to buy one Mario Kart, one Smash Brothers, and just getting DLC for a couple of years. Although with Smash Brothers, the DLC was really expensive, so maybe not like Smash Brothers,
Yeah,
more like Mario
it was
Kart.
a little too expensive.
Yeah. But for example, Splatoon 2 and ARMS, they could continually release DLC for them. Maybe the first year it's all free, but then after that, if you really want to expand your game, maybe create like a season pass, or maybe not a season pass. Some people don't like the idea of a season pass, but at least have like a DLC pack. Like, I actually kind of like the way Nintendo does it. You have a DLC pack 1 and 2. If you pay it together, it's $20, or it's cheaper. So we'll see. I like that idea. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. DLC for those kind of games would be really good. There are some games that I don't want to just get new DLC. Like, I hope that they're working on a new Zelda game, and not just, you know, working just on the new DLC that's coming out this year.
I'm sorry, Brandon. I love what's happening in the chat right now.
Dude, I know.
Tatsumi, Son Gohan are talking about DLC for Mario Odyssey, and I love exactly what you're thinking. I totally 100% and 10,000 agree there. So if anyone, we're not going to talk about specific spoilers, but there are some kingdoms that I want to be in Mario Odyssey that are not in Mario Odyssey. Like Isle Delfino, at least from what I know, it's not in the game. But it's in the map though. There's an Isle Delfino for Mario Odyssey. Like if you find the map, there's like a dolphin-shaped island. So maybe there are plans to have Mario Odyssey DLC, which there totally is gonna. There's DLC for like every Nintendo game now. Even Breath of the Wild has DLC, so Mario Odyssey has to be DLC. There's so much room, especially like I said, with all the costumes. You could add a Pikachu and Samus costume. Tons of other stuff. You could add actual other characters in the game. There could be a side story, maybe a Luigi story, maybe a Wario story. You know, maybe do more with Yoshi. And add Isle Delfino or the Comet Observatory. I'd love that. I would buy that in a heartbeat. Like, it would totally fit, man. They could totally add more kingdoms. It's so easy for them to do. Literally just create more kingdoms. They could do that for the next 2 years, and that'll be great. Like, remember when... Brandon, you still there? I'm sorry, I've been talking for a little bit.
I'm still here.
But you remember the new Super Mario Brothers on Wii U, right? And then a few months later, they came out with the new Super Mario Luigi U, or new Super Luigi U. Yeah. What if they did that, except for a cop-out HD 2D game that's been reused like multiple times? They actually do it for Mario Odyssey, where they'll have Super Luigi Odyssey, right? So it's a Luigi adventure, but you still play as Mario, you just play as both of them together, and they have Isle Delfino, they have the Observatory, they have a few different kingdoms you can go to that are different, and it's like another adventure with more costumes, like a Samus costume, like a Pikachu costume, as you guys brought up in the chat. I would love that so much. That excites me. I think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah, Mario works really well for that kind of DLC because it's not... When you go play Mario, you don't really play it for, like, the story. So if you just keep adding... You don't even need to, like, make a whole new game for a while if you just add, like, new worlds and kingdoms to the one that's already, like, super good. Because you don't go over, when your new Mario game comes out, like, oh man, what's the new story gonna be? I'm not looking forward to that. No, you just want to see the world. So if they just keep adding worlds, it's like getting a little new Mario game every DLC pack.
Yeah.
So.
And actually, apparently, according to Coloco, there's Captain Toad is looking for the first level of Super Mario 64 on his map, and there are some Mario 64 references in Odyssey. I'm not gonna say specifically what. So they could really recreate some Mario 64 kingdoms. Like literally recreate Mario 64 kingdoms. That's multiple kingdoms right there, you know?
Oh my gosh, that'd be so exciting.
Yeah. It would. There's just so much potential there. And so obviously as we're talking about this, us Nintendo fans, we want to have, we really want to have those actually more DLC. So like, now that we're on the Switch, which hopefully is just the one platform moving forward, maybe instead of diverting resources to making a second game of the same franchise on another system, they just give us more DLC. They'll make more money because they'll save money on having to recreate the game, and DLC is really cheap. That they just have to reuse assets, change things around, and we pay for that. And that'll help to bridge the gap between different franchises, and I love it. I think it's a great idea. It's pretty simple. But at the same time, though, I appreciate that Nintendo's sort of going against the grain with the rest of the industry. Because the rest of the industry, like for Call of Duty, bro, like right day one, you could spend $120 on that game. Like, what day
Yeah.
one? You $60 for the game, you have $50 season pass. Like, I think there's like a $10 DLC something as well. Like, it's really expensive. That's not the only game. It's just that's how they do it. They reel you in like that. And maybe once you pay for that, you don't pay for anything else after that. But there are some games that have loot crates. You literally pay for loot crates. You know, it's a form of microtransactions. And microtransactions can make you exorbitant amounts of money from kids who have access to their parents' credit cards that do not actually have permission to spend exorbitant amounts of money. But because they have access to their credit cards and their parents don't realize that they're kids and they don't know how to spend their own money, they'll end up spending $1,000 on a box of hats. Like... You know?
They would so do that.
And that's the thing, though. Some companies know that. They know that. They know that's what's going to happen. And they want to make as much money as they can. Now, I'm not... You know, capitalism, right? It's one of those things where, like, hey, if you can make the money, why not? But it's all... At the same time, though, like... That's not really good for gaming, I don't think. Because I'd rather companies focus on making great games instead of making games that are just about selling you different accessories. You know? So I'm worried about that. Which I guess kind of brings us to the main discussion, like the differences and comparisons between Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft. And as I mentioned earlier, now I have a PS4 now, which is awesome. I'm really excited about it. You know, it's really cool. And there's some games I'm planning on getting for. I've been playing Call of Duty. It's awesome. But I also still play my Switch. I've been playing a lot of Mario Odyssey. And I've just been seeing some differences, you know. Obviously, I've already known about a lot of them, but it's just kind of like seeing it up there personal and comparing the two. There are some differences, and then there are some differences with Xbox One as well, and just how the companies kind of handle things. Brandon, what are your initial thoughts on these comparisons? What do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting because every company works in a very different way from the others. As far as like microtransactions and stuff, I'd probably say Xbox is definitely the worst about this, because at least for PlayStation and Nintendo, they're not putting microtransactions and different things in their first-party titles. They have third-party titles that have such microtransactions and ridiculously overpriced DLC, but they're not putting it in their own games. However, Microsoft is putting these in their own games. They made Forza 7. They're putting it in Forza 7. They had different things that you could buy, like the online multiplayer had different, like you could get these cards that gave you new weapons and new vehicles and that you would use in the multiplayer, and you could just straight up like go into the shop and just buy them as microtransactions. Like, you don't see microtransactions in the latest Uncharted game on Sony's system. You don't see the microtransactions in like Nintendo game. You don't see anything like that. So at least as far as microtransactions goes, at least neither Sony or Nintendo seem to want to put them in their first party games, but third parties are just they're just all over.
Right, and well, here's the thing. First of all, shout out to Phantom Game, what's up, man? But I think part of the problem is that Xbox is in a situation where, well, Microsoft is, they don't have first party games, not really. So the first party games they do have, they have to try to make a killing on it. So microtransactions help them to do that. Sony and Nintendo have really strong first party games, and they know when they're going to sell, you know what I mean? They know when they're going to sell. Nintendo knew they were going to make money on Mario Odyssey. Nintendo knew they were going to make money on Breath of the Wild. You know, Sony knows that they're going to make money on Uncharted and God of War. Like, they know that. So they don't have to rely on microtransactions to make up for the fact that they don't have confidence in their games. Microsoft, on the other hand, is closer to other third parties in that respect. And they just don't have a strong first-party lineup. They just don't. They really don't. And they need to invest into that. They have the money. They can make it happen. They just haven't yet, for whatever reason. So it's unfortunate. I think...
It's very unfortunate.
And in fact, we're hearing... I haven't seen all the details on it, but we're hearing that Microsoft is actually more interested in the first-party games they do have and sort of, like, letting other companies play with them. Like, it's kind of just an extension of the idea of what we're seeing with Minecraft. Like, imagine if Xbox was the only platform that had Minecraft. They'd be doing a lot better, you know? Like, they would. There'd be lots of kids who would have Xbox for Minecraft, but Microsoft has not done that. I think they're kind of dumb for that. You know, like, at the same, it's just, why? Why? Like, yeah, people are buying do you think they make more money because people are buying more Minecraft versions because it's expanding every single platform? Or would they have made more money because they would have sold more Xboxes? You know, if it was exclusive to Xbox.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they could probably do both. They can just put the normal kind of Minecrafts onto every console, and they could make an exclusive version of Minecraft that's a lot different from the other versions and put it on their own console. I don't know what they would do or what they would change, but Minecraft has been like the same thing for over and over again. If they decide to make like a Minecraft 2 for once and make it actually different, then they could put that exclusively on Xbox and put like the normal version of Minecraft on every other system. But they don't. They just don't use Minecraft for anything but just the base Minecraft. So I don't know what they're doing.
Another thing that Microsoft does is that when they release a game, it's going to be available not only on Xbox but PC as well, right? So basically, anything that runs Windows 10 runs a Microsoft's first-party game. So it kind of loses the value of being exclusive to that platform, which means what does that mean? If you have a PC, you don't have a reason to get an Xbox, you know what I mean? Kinda, at least in terms of games, because you can get every game on PC. It's just that, I mean, literally that simple. So that creates it makes it really hard for Microsoft to sell their systems, I think. Now, they've been putting a lot of work into Xbox One X, and I guess they're really trying to make it so that that system really creates a really good experience for you without the software, which is a completely different strategy than what Nintendo's doing.
Yeah.
Completely different. Nintendo is like, we rely on our software, right? Which is why you'll only find our software on Nintendo systems, not counting mobile games. But it's it's just very different. It's very different, and well, it's coming from two different kinds of companies. Microsoft has they're a huge company that does more than just games. Like, games is like just a really small portion of what they do. Nintendo, that is who they are. They are games. So I kind of see, there's a different kind of company, so they do things differently. At the same time, Nintendo's also currently doing a lot better than Microsoft in the video game industry. So, in fact, Nintendo's pretty much always done better than Microsoft, except for the Wii U era.
Yeah, Microsoft is a weird company. They've never been quite on top, but they're not always on the bottom either. They're just kind of there in the middle of everything, just floating around in this weird space of not doing that great, but also not doing terribly bad. It's very weird. But I don't know. The Xbox One X is very interesting to me because as just a console in a vacuum, I love the Xbox One X. It's a great console. If you want to get into 4K gaming and you don't want to build a $1,000 to $2,000 PC, it's great. It's there. It's right there for you, and it will play great in a vacuum because it's a lot better of a 4K machine than the PS4 Pro is. It just is. It's a way better machine as far as hardware goes. But it's just in this weird space where I don't care because there's no exclusive games, and it's $100 more.
Yeah.
So why?
I don't know. I think it's one of those situations where, like, Nintendo has been in this industry for a while, and they have to be more cost effective with what they do because they're a smaller company, right? But I think they're more sensible in some ways. So they're smart in terms of the consumer, like they know how to make their fans happy, right? While Microsoft, you can get the game however you want. They spend all this money on different kinds of hardware. Now, if you're just a fan of Xbox Live, if you really like Xbox Live and that experience of just playing third-party games, okay, Xbox is definitely for you then, But that's kind of becoming an increasingly smaller and smaller market because Sony's PlayStation Network isn't that far away from Xbox, right? And Nintendo, okay, they still have a long way to go, but they're catching up, So 5 years from now, what values are going to be in having an Xbox, I don't know. Yeah. I don't want to rag on Xbox, even though I'm not an Xbox fan. I'm definitely a Nintendo fan. I'm definitely a hardcore Nintendo fan, right? Like, I am biased. I cannot be unbiased about it. That is the truth. But I do try to look at them objectively, and they do have good games, and if I could afford it, if I had the time, I would have an Xbox as well, right? But only because I'm a gamer. I still think, I see there's a lot of games on PlayStation I want to get. I'm going to pick up Horizon Zero Dawn, like, tomorrow. And you know, I already have Metal Gear on the game, and I'm gonna pick up Monster Hunter World. So you know, there's definitely games I want to play on PlayStation, and then of course there's the Last Guardian as well, and there's that game they're remaking Shadow of the Colossus. So there's a lot of games on PlayStation I'd love to play. There's not as many on Microsoft. Why? Because they don't have any first-party games. It's really that simple.
Yeah.
That Dragon game that was canceled, I was really into that. You know?
Oh, Scalebound.
Yeah.
That game looked so cool.
Yeah, it did. It looked really cool aside from the main character. But
Right,
that
he
was a
was
cool game, and it was canceled. And, you know, they have a lot of the rare IP. They could totally take advantage of that. If they actually put in money to make a quality developer, like remake Rare, use Perfect Dark, use Conker's Conker, use Killer Instinct, make Killer Instinct popular. They had a Killer Instinct come out for Xbox One. I thought it was cool, but it was like episodic and weird. So that's another thing.
Games are weird
That's another thing,
generally.
though. Like Killer Instinct should have been just one whole game, but because it was on Microsoft, they're like, hey, you know what? Just have different pieces, and you can just buy pieces of it. It's free to play, and just buy pieces of the game. And I don't think it worked out. I don't know,
No.
but it wasn't that popular.
It doesn't give you the satisfaction of your purchase. I think that's the problem with the games when you piece them up like that. People want satisfaction in their purchases. They want to know what they purchased was worth them a lot of stuff. And when they go in, they don't want to stop because, oh well, the next piece hasn't been made yet. Or,
Yeah.
oh, I have to go buy the next piece and then download it so I can keep playing.
Yeah.
Like, people just want the satisfaction of having bought the entirety of a game right then, right now, even if they had to wait. Even if they had to wait longer, they would have been more satisfied buying it right then as a whole unit.
Yeah, I
Instead of
personally
piecing
don't
them
like
up.
this idea of episodic games. Now, I think it's only okay if you have a huge game. For example, let's say Breath of the Wild, right? Because we all know I love Breath of the Wild. Let's just say that obviously they came out with Breath of the Wild, but they wanted to make it episodic in the sense that it's the game we got now, but they're going to have campaigns that come out every year that are just additional stories. Okay, I'd be down with that if they're like different side stories, you know what I mean? Like maybe this holiday season they come up with, I don't know, something. I can't even think of a story.
That DLC is still supposed to come out this
Zant
year.
comes out of the Twilight Realm when you have to fight Zant, and then you meet the Twilight
Holy
Princess
crap.
again, right? And then maybe next year they have a whole Minish Cap village that's in terror, and you have to go save them. And then the year after that, Majora's Mask finds its way into Hyrule. You know, so they could have side stories like that are within the Breath of the Wild world if they wanted to have like expansions to the game. But in the sense that the whole original game is broken up into pieces, that's annoying as hell to me. Like, it's annoying. I understand how on smartphones there's a lot of free-to-play games. You can play the game, you can play a lot of the game, but there are like microtransactions you can make within the game to sort of make it easier for you to play the game. That's different. Episodic, like, I didn't like it. And here's the thing: when I played Killer Instinct when it came out, you know, with Xbox One on the first day, if it was all one game, I might have been more enamored by it, and maybe I would have gotten an Xbox One for it. You know what I mean? But because I could only play as the wolf, I didn't care. You know, so I don't think it's a good idea. But it's kind of one of those things where Microsoft is more willing to have microtransactions and loot crates and episodic things like that, because I guess they just don't have as much confidence in their IP as Sony and Nintendo do, and that's a problem for them. I mean, well, that's what everyone's just talking about right now. Microsoft has no first-party games. I think it's that simple.
Yeah. It's sad because I used to love Xbox just as a whole. I had the original Xbox. I played Halo all the time. I remember watching my father play. What is it? I don't remember. I'll think of it later.
Ninja
but he used to
Gaiden?
play it like a. No. It was Splinter Cell. That's what it was.
Oh, Splinter
He used to
Cell.
play Splinter Cell a lot. I loved that game. I never got to play it, unfortunately, but I loved watching him play it. It was awesome.
Yeah,
Halo was super fun. And I had the Xbox 360 too, and I loved the Xbox 360, except the Kinect. The Kinect sucked. Like, I thought the Kinect was gonna be awesome, then I got it, and I played it for like a month, and I was like, no, never again.
I'll
And
tell
I
you
never
this,
touched it.
man.
But other than that, it was great.
I feel like Microsoft could have made it really good because they have all that rare IP. You know what I mean? Imagine if they actually used their rare IP. If they already have Halo, they already have Forza. You know, if they actually use their rare IP, it would have been good. There was actually a point where Sega and Microsoft were gonna merge. Imagine that, man. Imagine if Microsoft had Halo, had Forza, had Conquer, had Perfect Dark, had Banjo-Kazooie, had Sonic, you know, had... What's that crazy game that I know everyone loves that I've never played that came out for Dreamcast? It's slipping my mind. There's just... But anyways, we all know Sega has a lot of good games as well. But just imagine if between the Rare IP, Sega IP, and Microsoft, if they actually invested into just making quality first-party games, they would rival Nintendo, like in terms of games. They totally would. Maybe and Sony, they'd be up there, but they didn't. That's not what they focused on. Oh, Crazy Taxi's one. It's one of many really good Sonic games. Sega games. So,
I was about to say.
Yeah. There was so much potential there, and it was all lost. Sega did not merge with Microsoft. Instead, the Dreamcast just died. They didn't move on. They just became a third-party developer. You know, the Rare IP have just come out every blue moon, and they are just subpar. They're just, you know, a memory of what Rare once was. They're not nearly as good as, you know, their predecessors. And then, you know, we got Forza and Halo for Microsoft. That's pretty much it. You know what I mean? So.
And Halo doesn't.
Yeah, Halo's gone stale as well.
Halo 5 wasn't good, and they haven't made a Halo. Halo 4 wasn't good either. Halo 4 and 5 were terrible games, to be honest, in my opinion. They were just not good.
Part of the problem, I think, is that they're not used to being around the industry for a long time. At this point, they are going to be around for a while. But like, look at Nintendo, what they do with Mario and Zelda. They try to reinvent them every few years. So that's why there's so much difference between one Mario game and one Nintendo. And when I'm talking about the main games, not the spin-offs, right? They're so different. And that's what helps them to stay fresh and unique. Like, the whole Cappy mechanic, that changes. Mario Odyssey is completely different from Galaxy. And Galaxy is completely different from Sunshine, which is completely different from Mario 64. You know what I mean? So, the same does not apply from between Halo 5, 4, 3, and 2. You know, those games are very similar. You're getting the same experience, basically. You run through a 10 to 20 hour story, shoot stuff up, go online, shoot some stuff with friends. You add a hammer, maybe a sword, but it hasn't changed that much. And it's kind of hard, though. I see the challenges with the first person sort of games, because it's a saturated market, first person shooters. That's part of the problem. There are so many first person shooters while there's not that many Mario platformers, you know? So it's harder. I'll agree, it's harder to reinvent the first-person shooter, but I think they just haven't even tried. So, I'm not saying Halo isn't good, I'm just saying it hasn't been reinvented enough.
Yeah, Halo 4 and 5 are like, they're not absolutely trash games, but they're like 7 out of 10 kind of games. They're like, okay. They're good enough games, and I don't know. Like, Halo 5 had some cool, like, the way you can do different platforming things, and it had some elements. Moving mechanics were really good. Like, the way you can move around the environment was a lot better than the previous games. But it's just, they took out so much of what made Halo Halo and didn't add anything new in it. They just took out some features and then didn't put anything back. Like, no local multiplayer. Like, what is Halo without local multiplayer? Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, Halo is local multiplayer. That's just what it is to a lot of people, especially me. I used to play Halo local multiplayer all the time. All the time. So it's just like Halo 5 didn't have that. It was just like the story was super repetitive. It felt like just all like the other ones. It just doesn't, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess we've been ranking on Microsoft for a while now. That's not what I'm trying to do, but you know, we're just kind of comparing different things. Sorry. So like, let's compare the Switch and the PlayStation, right? So I have both now. Obviously the Switch is early out on the market, so it's not what it's going to be a couple years from now, right? But when I compare what I have with the Switch and what I have with the PlayStation, there's a lot of really good first-party games on the system. There's a lot of good indie games on the Switch. But there's some games that are available on PlayStation I would like to get. But I'm also debating if I should get it because it might come out on Switch. And if it's portable, that really matters to me. You know what I mean? So, for example, I might wait on Dragon Ball Z Fighters because I might be able to get that on Switch. And it's going to pretty much look the same, but I'll be able to play it portably, which totally matters for a game like that. So, I'm going to get that. Monster Hunter World, on the other hand, I don't think it's even going to come out for Switch, so I'm probably going to get it for PlayStation. Now,
they just reconfirmed they don't have any plans to put it on the Switch, unfortunately.
And the PlayStation Network thing is way more expensive than what Nintendo's going to charge us, but at the same time, I have very little confidence that it's going to work really well on the Switch. We'll see, but up to this point, Nintendo hasn't really delivered a really consistent online experience in terms of connectivity and features and such. PlayStation, on the other hand, there's a lot of features, a lot of options, not just with online, there's like there's a slew of different kinds of things. But something about it does annoy me, though. Compared to the Switch, like, it's very laggy in terms of the setup and, like, getting into one game or one app versus another, and it's really, it's not smooth, and there's just so many options out there. And the options are good, I guess. But I guess the Switch, when I have the Switch, everything is just quick and easy and simple. So that's the thing, everything's simple. But at the same time, there's no Netflix, there's no internet browser right now, there's no Crunchyroll, and those are things I mean, we all know it's coming to the Switch, it's just a matter of time. So I'm curious to see how the Switch will run, how it will feel once those apps become available, because at that point, you know, it'll be a more fair comparison to see how the Switch compares to the PlayStation. So, I don't know. But right now, one good thing about the PlayStation, I would say, is that, like, you can suspend, like, games and applications and then have multiple open. You can't do that with the Switch at all, and I don't expect them to do that. So, I don't know. We'll see how it happens. These are just differences. There are pros and cons. Like, while I prefer most of the games on the Switch, there are still a lot of good games on the PlayStation. And in fact, the shop on the PlayStation has a lot of options, a lot of free games. There's a lot of games that are on sale. Like Horizon Zero Dawn, you can get for 27 bucks. I'm going to buy it tomorrow for 27 bucks. You know, if I want to buy Breath of the Wild, which is, I guess, the closest equivalent, right? That's $60. You know, so Nintendo games don't drop in price while PlayStation games do. And some of them are still pretty good. So those are just, like, some differences. I am enjoying both systems, so yeah. What do you think, Brandon?
I agree with a lot of that. Every time I get onto my dad's PlayStation, because I haven't got my own. I do plan on buying my own PlayStation, but I don't have one yet. So I play on my dad's every once in a while, and it's so confusing. I have no idea where anything is. It's just like you have to like wade through the options to find what you actually want. And it's not even that there's too many options. There is some ways. I wish you could turn certain options off, like if you don't use it, just be able to not have it pop up in your menu. It would be awesome. But it's not even that. It's just that they don't tell you exactly where everything's going to be. You just kind of have to find it. And the icons are not that helpful in finding out where you actually need to go. And I feel like there's the same problem on Microsoft's system as well. It's just they have so many options and they're not organized at all. They're just kind of there, and you have to find what you want.
Yeah, so like Nintendo really focuses on simplicity. You know, they really make it easy to understand most of the time. They try to. Most of the time they succeed. And it's just easy to understand where things are, how to make it work. And compared to the other two companies, now they're more sophisticated. There's a lot more features in terms of hardware. That's true, and that's cool. But it's also kind of hard to figure out. So, you know, it's kind of a trade-off. More features, simplicity, easy to use, you know? So, these are just differences. I'm not trying to rag on one company or another. These are just differences.
I love PlayStation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really a big fan of what PlayStation is. And a lot of their first-party games. Like, I love, like, Ratchet & Clank, Uncharted, Horizon Zero Dawn. My dad just absolutely loves that game, and I really want to try it out. So there's games for the PlayStation I really want to get. It's just that there's some other problems. But there's some things that are better on the PlayStation. Obviously, it's a much more capable hardware. The graphics is much better on the PlayStation 4 if you're looking for a graphical experience, especially if you get the Pro. If you have like a 1440p or 4K TV like I do.
Let me say this, okay? Like, I mean, I haven't played that many games on the PS4 yet. Like, I've played games. I mean, like, you know, from beginning to end, putting in 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 hours on multiple games. But, like, from what I've seen, from what I've played, if we're just talking about PS4, not a PS4 Pro on a 4K or Xbox One X on a 4K, I feel like the difference is so minimal that, like, you shouldn't... What I'm saying is if the only reason you're getting a PS4 over a Switch, a normal PS4, is because it's more powerful, I don't think it's significant enough to really warrant that for most people. Like, I don't see it. Now, if it's a 4K and a Pro, that's one thing. However, if you want to get a PS4 because there are more online features, there's a better selection of third-party games, you're a big fan of God of War and Uncharted and Horizon Zero Dawn, okay, those are good reasons to get a PS4. But if you're just getting it because it's technically more powerful, I don't think it's a good reason, because I think the difference is not significant enough to warrant that, personally speaking. But like I said, if you really care about power and specs, maybe you should just get a PC. But if that's too expensive for you, then I guess a Pro or an Xbox One X will be a good stopgap for that. So
yeah, I agree with that, definitely, that the differences between the PS4 and the Switch, at least the base PS4 versus the Switch, aren't big enough to buy a PS4 for Switch. Like, if you're going off of graphics, the Switch honestly has it's going to have way more first-party games. It just is. It's going to have way more exclusives than the PlayStation. The PlayStation has some exclusives, and they have some great exclusives, like Uncharted and Horizon Zero Dawn. They have some exclusives, but they're just not. There's just no argument. There's not as many. If you like third-party games, and you, as you said, you can't afford a PC, then that's great for you. But I don't know. If the PS4 was like the Xbox and it didn't have exclusives, I wouldn't care, because I have a PC. It's way more powerful than both the PS4 Pro and the regular PS4. So, though, as some people like Will the Deity has pointed out, there are some third-party games that are not on PC at all that are on consoles. So there's a few of them here and there.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting. I feel like the PlayStation has some things for it, but I mean, it's not big enough to buy a PlayStation 4 over a Switch, but I feel like the difference is big enough that you will notice the difference. So if you own both a PS4 and a Switch and you don't care about portability, you might buy third-party games on the PS4 because it's a big enough difference if you don't play portable that much.
And I think it's going to depend from game to game. So, it's just kind of one of those things where I think there's a market for both. I do still think there's a market for Microsoft, but it's dwindling. Because
I feel like there's definitely a market there. They just don't actually use it.
Yeah. So, I mean, here's the thing. Like, because Xbox games are basically all run on PC, there's less of a reason to get an Xbox, right? But if you want to, like, move the PC experience to the living room, Xbox is kind of like that. You know what I mean? But aside from that, the only other reason to really want Xbox over the other systems is Xbox Live, or maybe you're a diehard fan of Forza or Halo. I guess Gears of War is also an exclusive. So there's just less reasons right now to own an Xbox exclusively unless you're a big fan of Microsoft. So I don't know. I think maybe we'll see more. The Xbox I can't even speak right now. The Xbox One X, I'm going to take a good look at it, see what it has to offer. Maybe, Microsoft is really they are making a big push with the system. Let's see what it does and what it does for the living room. Maybe it warrants, that market. I'm skeptical, but we'll see. So, yeah, I think if you're looking for the best selection of third-party games and a lot of great deals on, the digital store, PlayStation is your guy. It's a good multimedia device.
That's definitely true.
For sure, and there's still some really good first-party games. If you're looking for something that is simple, quick, and it's all about a pure gaming experience, the Switch is your thing. Because, well, one, it's portable. So if you're looking for something that satisfies both, Switch, right? And if you are a big fan of Nintendo games, Switch. If you are looking for a company that's going to come out with the most consistent, high-tier games on a regular basis, Nintendo. But Sony's not far behind. But they're not going to have the widest selection. Well, it's getting better, but it's still right now Sony definitely has the widest selection of games. And there aren't as many deals on the eShop as there are on the digital store for PlayStation. So, yeah. But if you want the ideal, like, online gaming experience, like, if the only games you want to play are, like, Call of Duty, Halo, Forza, those sorts of games, Assassin's Creed, like, if it's just those kind of games you want, you're going to get all of that on Xbox. And the best online experience is still on Xbox Live, right? And if for whatever reason you have like a laptop that runs Windows 10, if you have a PC, if you have different like things that run Windows 10 and you want to have different options, you can run the same game on different platforms there as well. So those are reasons to want to perhaps have an Xbox over the two systems. So there are differences between the three, but the problem with Microsoft is that there's a lot more similarities between the PlayStation and the Xbox than there are between the Switch. The Switch separates itself, and the PlayStation does a lot of those things better. So the Xbox is kind of losing out in sales right now for a lot of different reasons. So I'm worried for the company. I don't know what they're gonna do. I think they have a lot of potential, but it's a lot of potential that's been lost. As I said, like they could have had that Sega partnership. They have a lot of rare IP. They could do something special with the franchises they have. They just haven't. So hopefully in the future they figure things out. They said that they're not going to start focusing on first-party games now that they're releasing the Xbox One X. We'll see what happens. So those are my thoughts on the matter.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they have some games they could pull. Hopefully Halo 6 is good. They already kind of screwed up Forza 7. Oops. Maybe Forza 8 would be great.
Yeah, maybe they'll come out with a new Killer Instinct, a new Banjo-Kazooie, a new Perfect Dark, or maybe.
What are you talking about? They already got nuts and bolts. Best Banjo-Kazooie game.
That game
ever.
came out on 360. It's been a while already. It's time for a new one. Or here's another interesting thing, guys, because Microsoft is not even talking. There's been some talk about Microsoft putting their games on other systems. So what? And Nintendo, Microsoft co-publish a lot of new Rare games. What if there's like a Rare initiative, right? Where we see Perfect Dark, Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Killer Instinct all come out on the Switch, and they're like high-quality games, way better than what we've seen so far that came out the last few years for Rare IP. That would be awesome, and it's actually not that hard to believe because, like I said, there are reports about Microsoft really talking about considering making plans to release a lot of their games on other systems, like what they've done with Minecraft. So who knows? This could mean that Microsoft is going to move away from the dedicated home console business. But hey, if it means that we're going to get a lot more games coming out on PlayStation and Nintendo, I'm okay with that personally. But we'll see. Maybe they'll just have Xbox Live as like a digital service that you can access on Nintendo or PlayStation, you know what I mean, as like an app. And I think that'd be really cool because maybe you could have an option of using Xbox Live instead of Nintendo's online setup for the next system, right? That'd be interesting. I might consider doing it too. So we'll see. It's a lot of ifs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of been my I'm almost hoping they go like just onto Nintendo and PC or PlayStation PC at this point because it's just like nothing they're doing is interesting me at all. And it's just like I like some of your games. It's just you're not doing them good.
Right.
It's in the hardware is holding them back because nobody wants to buy it because there's no games. So their games would sell well if the hardware would sell. It's not. Nobody's arguing that their games are bad. It's just they don't have enough.
It's probably why they're talking about selling their games on other systems because at this point they're not making enough from PC and Xbox sales, and it's going to cost them more money to come up with a new hardware that's going to sell their games as opposed to just releasing their games on other systems. And it sounds a lot like Sega actually, because eventually Sega got to a point where they started releasing their games on other systems, even though they already had a Dreamcast. And then, there's still a lot more games coming out on Dreamcast, but as time went on, more and more games were coming out for the systems, and before we knew it, the Dreamcast died, and there were a lot of games already into development for PS2, GameCube, and even Xbox, and eventually, they just call it completely quits, Dreamcast is done, and now Sega is what we know of them as today, making lots of bad Sonic games, but other good games here and there. So.
Yeah, but Xbox, they make most of their money on their Xbox Live. It's just a fact. They could put Xbox Live, say, on the Switch, and
I said,
work with Nintendo with online.
I would like
things
that,
like that, and still make the same amount of money, honestly, or more than they're making right now.
That's obviously not happening right now because Nintendo's actually creating their own service. But
yeah, but their service doesn't look that good yet, as far as we know.
It does not look that good yet. So my question is, how do you think would Nintendo even be interested in that? Maybe they won't be interested in that.
Very interested. I think they'd be very interested, depending on how much
maybe they have to strike a sort of deal where maybe Xbox can run Xbox Live on Nintendo hardware going forward in the future, but that comes with the caveat that all of the Rare IP now belong to Nintendo. As long as Xbox
Or they
Live
could
is on
just-
Nintendo, so is the Rare IP. I think that's a good trade-off.
Yeah, and I feel like if this Switch Online is actually good, like up to Xbox par, like people will be willing to pay $60 for that. I think if they see that it's actually not trash, they might be. I think a lot of people will be willing to pay $60 for it. I mean, people pay for that on Xbox, and there's not even any games to play with it.
Yeah,
So
hold on a second. Lil, let me get that right. Lil the Daddy, what's up, man? How you doing? Has an interesting question. Well, he brings up that isn't Sony publishing games on the Switch and the PC in the near future?
Are they?
I don't know. I've heard about some
about this.
PS4 games that might run on PC. And I wouldn't be surprised if there have been some really obscure, really low budget Sony published games that have come out on Nintendo systems in the past. I don't know of any right off the bat, but I'm not. Whatever it is, it's not a significant amount of. There's not a lot of support for it. It's just like some really minor stuff. But there may be something, but it's nothing significant from what I know. Although a quick Google search might help me. Sony publishing. Let's see. Sony publishing.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard of them publishing some small game, but I don't remember what it was.
So I literally Googled Sony publishing on Nintendo. Let's see if anything. A new Sony labels publishing a Nintendo Switch game. Oh, I actually heard about this not too long ago. I think Sony Music Entertainment is publishing games.
Oh.
Yeah,
I've heard of
which is separate from their game division, actually. What that means entirely, it's basically kind of what I said. I'm not gonna bother with. All of these games are really insignificant, low budget kind of games for the most part. Nothing. We're not talking about the big AAA games from Sony, you know. So I guess, yeah, but like nothing like Horizon Zero Dawn or Uncharted or God of War are going to show up on any PC. Well, maybe PC, but no Nintendo platform at all anytime soon. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can say on the matter for now. But things can change. We'll see what happens in the future. So yeah, that's it pretty much. So, I don't know, Brandon, do you have any final thoughts on these comparisons? Because I think we've reached an okay conclusion for the night, given that it's getting late.
Yeah, I just kind of, to wrap up all my thoughts, while I do like Nintendo the most, I do think the other companies all have something that they do well. As far as Xbox, their hardware itself is actually really good. I'd say their hardware is probably some of the best hardware on the market. Sony is really good at striking that balance between first parties and third parties and having great features on their consoles. Well, Nintendo probably has, let's just be honest, they have the best first party lineup of any of the consoles. Then they have the best exclusives. So I think they all three have something that they do well. I just value what Nintendo does well more than the other consoles, I think.
Yeah.
Which is why I like them the best.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, actually. I mean, Nintendo games, I've always valued them more. And I think they're better. And if you look at reviews, they usually are better. That may sound biased, but just look at the reviews. Play it yourself. Nintendo releases more quality games than the other companies in terms of first-party public. Like, they publish more high-quality games than the other companies. That doesn't mean Sony doesn't. They do release some. Microsoft occasionally does some too, but Nintendo does the most in that category. And I care about those games more than anything else. So that's why I'm mostly a Nintendo fan. Actually, I heard something really, really kind of scary from Son Gohan. I just read it now, that apparently there's some talk about Switch being banned on planes.
Which is no! That commercial, that initial reveal would be a lie.
There's so much weird stuff happening in planes these days. Video games banned on Japanese. Well,
what is the harm of having a Switch on a plane?
I'm gonna look into the information later. There's not enough time for. I can't literally read articles on this now because I'm actually ending the discussion. But this could be a good discussion point for next week. We'll do some research on it. We'll talk about it probably if it's actually anything that's significant. Hopefully that doesn't happen because Switch on a plane, bro. Yeah, so we'll
I haven't
see.
flown a plane, and
I don't see why though. Like, why wouldn't you want it to create some sort of weird? I don't know. Like, there's so the thing is with planes that there's this huge sensitivity about bombs, and you know, flight travel is a scary thing if you think about it, right? So they're oversensitive about a lot of random things, I guess. You know, so it doesn't entirely shock me of the possibility that maybe they would ban video games on a plane. So it's not a good idea. It's really stupid. But I'm gonna look into it and see what happens with that. Hopefully that's not the case, because that would suck, man. Last time I was on a plane, I actually used my Switch. I had fun with it. It really helped that travel. See, it's late. I'm done already. But you know, it really helped that trip to not feel long and boring. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyways, I guess that's it for now, guys. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below after the video, once this is archived. I'll see you guys all really soon. Bye. Also, yeah, of course, Brandon, you can say bye. Check out his channel if you haven't already, though I know a lot of you guys already have, so... But the link is in the description. He makes lots of news videos. He does live streams of games way more often than I do, so
yeah,
check him out. Yeah.
Yeah. See you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Good night, guys. Bye.